We're also hearing from a wide range of people today, from community members to those who are in a position to make real change.
One of those people is Dr. Yohuru Williams. He is the founder of the Racial Justice Initiative over at the University of St. Thomas. I asked him to put this moment into historical context and suggest practical ways that anybody can be an agent of change.
I'm curious, as you reflect on the last year, what do you feel we have to show?
I think we can celebrate the immediacy of the conversation. It's been great to see here in Minnesota in particular how this really hasn't fallen off anyone's radar. You see corporations, universities, media services stepping up and saying, we've got to continue the dialogue, and we have to do so in meaningful ways that ultimately privilege our shared humanity. How do we as a community think differently about issues of race and racial justice in order to make change? At the same time, some of the foundational issues that contributed to the tragedy of last May remain. Certainly, we are still dealing with the issue of accountability and policing and the attendant questions of how we deal with issues of race and poverty. And so at the same time that we can celebrate the fact that people haven't really lost sight of the fact that we need to be having these conversations, there's still a lot of work to be done with regard to health disparities, educational inequality, so on and so forth, that again are a big part of what happened last May. The policing issue is just the tip of the iceberg of a much broader and deeper reckoning with racial injustice in America.
Can you put the last year and this moment we're in right now into historical context for us? Will this be enough to stick moving forward?
In this moment, what we have to resist is the desire and the tendency to say, when is this going to be over? This is a long, process of dismantling. It didn't take us a year to get here, and it's not going to take 1 year or 2 years to get us out of it. And what we can learn from the past is we have to have the political will to stay in this fight, to stay in this conversation, and not to walk away until we're sure we've done the work necessary to achieve lasting change.
You've talked a lot about what needs to be done. Let's get specific. Let's talk about what people can do in their own communities and their own families to make sure that this change does last.
We need to practice everyday acts of shared humanity. And by that, I mean that we don't lose sight of the fact that we're a community. And if there's trauma or hurt or harm any place in our community, that undermines our community as a whole. We also have to resist this tendency to talk about reconciliation before we do or go through the process of feeling. You can't talk about healing unless you actually have the feeling part, where you know what it feels like as a community, as an individual, to recognize what that pain is and to earnestly want to do something about that. And so that ends up manifesting itself in a number of ways that people can make a difference. Volunteer, educate yourself about what's happening, not just in terms of African Americans here in the Twin Cities, but indigenous peoples. Be in a space where you're open to not only learn, but then to think about how to take concerted action in areas where you have influence. Sometimes we want to tackle the big issues. So everybody wants to deal with educational inequality. But the fact of the matter is there is a range of issues. It's death by 1,000 cuts when it comes to racial inequality in America. Every little thing that we do that advances justice in some area ultimately contributes to the problems getting better. And that's how we have to think about tackling it.
You can find that entire interview with Dr. Williams. It's on our website, fox9.com.